Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Bitcoin for Family show, where every guest is your new BFF. That's your Bitcoin friend forever. I'm Scott from Shamri, and it's an honor to have you all here. Thanks to everyone that's been watching and listening over the past month or so. On to the show. I'm excited to have a fellow Bitcoin author join us here today. And so I'd like to welcome to the show the author of Bitcoin, A Treasure to HODL, which I have a copy of right here,
I love seeing
Lindey
you hold
Magee.
that.
Thanks for joining.
You bet. Thanks for having me.
No, it was great to meet you in person in Vegas a few weeks ago. Thanks again for the advanced copy that Charlotte and Zoe got to take home. They've enjoyed flipping through it, and other family members have come and read it as well. So it's a fun book that we'll be able to touch on as the show goes on. But we'll dive into the questions in a second. But first, let's get the audience to know you and your family a little bit. Just kind of some background around. I know you have two kids. Kind of share with them your family structure, just to give a sense of the kind of conversation we're going to have today.
All right. I have two children. My adult son is 24 and recently engaged. So I have a new daughter-in-law that will be adding to the family next summer. I'm super excited
Amazing.
about that. They've been together for 7 years. It was about time. And my daughter, Palin, is 16. I was married for 25 years and we lost my husband and their dad last August. So we have had a tough couple years while he was sick, and we're believers and just prayed for him to be healed and know that he is just not on this side of heaven. So that's part of my Bitcoin story, and we can get into that some if you want to or not. But yeah, mom with two kids.
Awesome. Well, thanks for sharing that, especially the personal side. I know you have a note as well in the book that talks a little bit about that. So I'm sure something special and from many different levels, not just the Bitcoin side, but getting the book out and then seeing your family continue to grow and thrive since that time. And congrats on the upcoming wedding too. I'm sure that'll be exciting.
Yeah,
Maybe.
very exciting.
Yes. Cool. Well, then let's kind of start some things off on the lighter side with some fun icebreakers. First question. Uh, what's the one internet or social media trend that your kids, since they're both kind of early 2000s kids,
Yeah.
that they maybe got obsessed with over the years when they were younger or whatnot, that you just couldn't stand? Anything come to mind that,
Um, well, I can really only think of positive things as far as my kids. Bennett, I brought him home to homeschool in seventh grade, and he just took to YouTube like crazy, super intellectually curious kid. And he actually told me about Bitcoin in 2012. Neither one of them do social media. If they did social media, I know that would be the thing. I'm so grateful that they don't. My daughter, who's 16, has dealt with some cyberbullying, even not being on social media. I think that that is just the bane of this generation, being introduced to like social media platforms before they're ready so young. If you think about it, like when we were in school, if we had an issue at school, we got to come home and be completely apart from it. The kids today never get any type of a break from being around everyone. Everyone has access to them, if they're on social media.
yep, definitely a lesson to, lots of lessons to learn around how that can be used in a positive and negative way. But I like the way you kind of flip that into a positive and say, there is so many times the negative gets enforced about all these things, but there is positive to so much of it, including, people like us would have never met without
Yeah.
things like social media.
That's
So,
right. That's right. Yeah.
there's a force for good out there, and we can touch on more of that as we go along. Okay, question number two. If you could have any superpower to make parenting easier, what would it be?
Oh goodness.
I guess this could be now or even when they were younger, since some of them are they're
Yeah,
in
when
the
they were
house now.
younger,
Yeah.
superpower. I just more influence for goodness sake. Yeah, my kids, you need them to be a little scared of you whenever they're young. I have good kids. For the most part, Um, but yeah, just the mom I could have been a little stronger.
There we go. Okay, that makes sense. Next question. What's one song or movie that your kids became obsessed with when they were younger, that you guys got to watch as a family
Okay,
or listen to?
Bennett definitely is the Thunderbirds. We watched that as a family a lot. I think that it bombed in the box office, but we all love that movie. It's fantastic with like Penelope. that drove the pink car. Have you seen
I have
Thunderbirds?
not. I think I've heard of it, but
Hey, you need to watch it. It's a
okay.
good it's just a good film. And then, oh gosh, my daughter, she's always been deemed Palin the musical since she was really young. She went through a phase of loving all of the villains like Cruella de Vil, which makes no sense because she is the biggest dog lover on the face of the planet now. But when she was little, she loved all the villains and she was obsessed with Alice in Wonderland, which the first time I watched it as a kid, thought it was the worst animated film I had ever seen. I came to love it through her eyes. And she went on to be cast as the lead, Alice, several years ago in a play that we did with our local theater group.
That's awesome. Full circle
Yeah.
there for her.
Yep. It
That
was
must
an
have been
exciting moment.
there you go. Not only being in it, but getting to be Alice. So
Yes.
that must have been a lot of fun.
It was a
Very
lot of fun.
cool. Last icebreaker for us. Is there any gadget or app that your kids have introduced you to that you've secretly become obsessed with or that has helped you out in life?
My son introduced me to ChatGPT, who I lovingly refer to as Gideon.
Okay.
I use it every single day. I do not outsource my thinking, but I use it as a personal assistant. Have it look things up for me. It's so much more efficient than Google. My favorite thing about it is that I have the paid version and it has a memory, so I don't have to like give it a lot of background on certain things. It's helped me a lot with like legal things, taxes. It's just phenomenal. So I'm very grateful. He told me before I think probably most people ever knew it was a thing. He's like, "Mom, you need to start using this. It's going to change the world." And he's always early on everything. So, ChatGPT from Bennett, Palin. Um, I don't know that there is from her. She is like she's not online a lot. She's a reader. She likes a good softcover hardback book. That's her thing.
Maybe a
She
book she's introduced you
spends.
to.
What's that?
Is there a book she's introduced you to?
Um, oh gosh, I've tried to even listen to her books on Audible and I can't. She does like young adult fantasy and I'll like get through one chapter and I'm done. My Audible is full of, the big print, the truth about Fauci. I don't read really for pleasure so much as I do, research type things. So I could learn from her and try to do better about that. And she's on my case about it, but I've not given in just yet. Maybe
Maybe.
maybe at some point.
Yes, maybe one day. Cool. Well,
Yeah.
got it. And are you using I know a lot of people use the ChatGPT talk to version. Are you talking to it? Are you typing to it?
I typically type, but I do talk when I get in a pinch, and I really like the voice that I have settled on with ChatGPT. I do, yeah. But I'm typically at my computer when I'm using it, and I probably should talk, but I'm a typer.
Yeah, I know a lot of people out there. Sometimes they have the talk version on even while they're just driving around, having full on conversations in their car about whatever it is that they're
Yeah.
talking about or learning about. So maybe one day you'll get there too. Cool. Well, thanks for the icebreaker side of things. Just kind of dive a little deeper into the family life. As you mentioned, you got the two kids, kind of early 2000s babies, if you will. So let's maybe rewind back to them and just from a high level, how would you really describe their upbringing through that particular time period in the early 2000s? Is there a way that you would kind of describe it from your point of view?
Ben was born in 2000. We live in Southwest Mississippi, which is where I grew up. I lived overseas for a period of time. But I would think traditional. We Very important to me while they were growing up that we sat at the table as a family to eat dinner. That they got outside and played. And, screen time became a thing, especially when Palin was little, and that was always a battle for me. Because it is such a good distraction, man. I mean, it really is. And I was growing a nonprofit at the time, so she probably was on a screen more than maybe I would have liked her to be, but at the same time, I'm grateful for it. And, there's a balance between there's so many opportunities to learn. Um, but yeah, probably use TV and that as a crutch a little bit more with her than with Bennett. I do remember going on a field trip with him when he was like in kindergarten or first grade, and we were like on a big charter bus. I don't remember even where we were going, but all of the kids had like, I don't know if the Switch was the thing, DS, one of those small Nintendo handheld things. And he looked at me and was like, Mom, what is that they have? And I was like, yes, I've done such a good job. My kid doesn't even know what it is. So it's funny how things change from one kid to the next.
Yes, especially when there's kind of that age gap between
Yeah,
them.
there is a
Even though
gap.
it doesn't seem as big as it is, but does change things, especially in the worlds of kids. How do you think your kids would describe their upbringing if you were in their shoes?
Gosh, well, I hope that they would describe it as positive and good, and I think that they would. Yeah. We were just the typical family and, did the vacations. You know, their dad worked too much and, we've all talked about that and he had regret about it, but it was what it was and, set us up to be in a good position. So, I do know that they're both grateful that they're homeschooled. They've expressed that to me. They're old enough to both be able to look back on that, Palin still, but they're both really grateful that they were at home and
Very
homeschooled.
nice. And do you think that that's something we can touch on homeschooling a little bit, but just because you brought it up there, as they grow up and you have your son getting married soon and probably maybe at some point having kids of their own, do you think they'll go down that homeschool path because they had that success with it?
Well, she is a teacher,
Okay.
Lysandra. So I don't know. I really don't know. That is the values that have kind of been instilled in them. And, as we march forward, I think we all see more and more problems with especially the public school system. There's some incredible schools out there as well. And I don't think everyone is suited or wants to, or, that homeschools may be best for everyone. I'm certainly an advocate for it, and it was a blessing to our family. So I'll be curious. I really have not thought about that before.
That would be something to come. So she's she's a public school teacher now. Was she homeschooled or did she go to public
No,
school?
she went to private school. The same
Private.
She graduated from the same private school that my husband and I did.
Got it.
So,
So if your son was homeschooled, she went to school. How did they actually meet?
a mutual friend. We live in town near the school, so our house was like the hub. There were a lot of teenagers in and out of my house, which I loved. I really did love that. And a guy friend of Bennett's and of hers was here all the time, and she was here all the time, and they were friends for like years before they started dating.
Very nice. So nice old school love story there from teenagehood into getting married. Very nice. Do you have a particular stage from parenting that you look back on and think of as kind of your favorite for one reason or another? I know it's all fun, but is there any certain stage that really sticks out to you?
I loved like 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, right in there, right before they kind of get that attitude.
They
And
always have the
it's
attitude, but it's not as
so
bad.
sweet and bubbly, and they love their mama. That probably.
Yep. No, that is speaking from what we're in now with Charlotte's just turned 6 last week, so we're right in
Where you
the
tuck
heart.
them in and they have a bedtime story and ask for like another one, and
Yes.
yeah.
No, we know that drill. So it's definitely a fun age for sure. And we mentioned earlier, so there's that the 8-year age gap between your two, and I happen to have an 8-year age gap between. I have two sisters, both younger. We're
Okay.
all 4 years apart. So my youngest sister is 8 years from
Oh,
me,
wow.
which um, is unique and different. Like you said earlier, it doesn't sound like a lot to the outside, but when you're in it, it can bring some differences between things. And were there, as you look back on it, things that you had to relearn between those 8 years to be able to kind of go back into that grind?
Everything, because my kids are so different. They are nothing. They have some similarities, but as far as like raising them and their interests, very different, very different. So yeah, and I had to relearn just how to parent according to what I thought it was going to be like versus what it was. I was always told because I said so, no, because I said so, and that was good enough. And I didn't ask any questions. And when Bennett came along, he needed a reason. And that was like, so, you immediately think that's disrespectful. But I learned really quickly that if I gave him a reason for what I was asking for, or what my expectation was, that he just fell in line every time. He just wanted to know. And so, why do we as parents feel like we can't talk to them like they're intelligent people? So he taught me that from the time he could talk, and it just made things so much more smooth for me to just communicate with him.
Yep. No, lets them have that little bit of control, if you will, but also
Yeah,
understanding
yeah.
where you're coming from. And like you said, talking to them like an adult from a young age
Mhm.
is a very positive, reinforcing thing. We try to do it in our household, and it's worked out well. Do you think that is there any uniqueness between their brother-sister relationship because of the age gap that comes to mind?
Well, Palin will tell you now that he was a horrible brother, always ran her off, abused her, which he did plenty of. She doesn't remember whenever she was too young to remember how sweet he was with her. And then he ended up moving off after he graduated and was gone for several years. But over the past few years, with Chuck being sick and they moved back down to Louisiana and they're so, Lysandra's family oriented, Bennett is, they get here a lot and spend a lot of time, with us, with her. And so it's been fun to watch them kind of reconnect as him being an adult and her being older.
Yeah, it does. Speaking from experience, start closing that gap, even though it's still there. It definitely starts closing as you get older. And you know, now I don't. There's 8 years between my sister, that youngest sister, and I, and 4 between. But I really just think of us all as the same age for the most part.
Yeah, I can see that.
Once you're
It
once
does
you're an
change
adult,
a lot as you get older.
yeah, exactly. So I'm sure you'll get to live vicariously through seeing all that happen, and probably bring all 3 of you guys closer together too, as you all go into that stage, and have more weddings and grandkids down the line.
Well, and you asked earlier about the fun age, and I mentioned the younger years, but I've really, really enjoyed my son as an adult. I really have, yeah.
Uh, And he's still close by, and being able to
Yeah, he's an hour or so south of here, but yeah, they make it up, and he travels a lot with work. He does field producing for the High Wire, and so he was gone like for 2+ weeks in June, and she came up and stayed with us across the weekend. So
nice, very, very close knit and
yeah.
tight. I'd love to hear it. Let's shift it back to homeschooling and dive into that a little bit more. You mentioned, something that started at a young age. Kind of maybe talk to the audience through kind of how that began. Was there any apprehension when it started? What was the genesis of it? Kind of the genesis story of the
Uh,
homeschooling.
I got a story.
Okay.
Um, I never ever anticipated homeschooling. It wasn't on my radar, not something that I wanted to do. Um, but in Mississippi, when Palin was born, you could not go to public or private school without all of your vaccines. And when I was pregnant with Ben in 1999, I used Ask Jeeves. I don't know if you remember
I
Ask
remember Ask
Jeeves,
Jeeves.
the
I do.
Google of our time, to research vaccines. And I just had a check in my spirit. It just didn't feel right. And so I did a lot of research. Hard to find things in 1999. Very difficult. But I did postpone and got berated by my doctor. I ended up going ahead and vaccinating him. So he did. He went to kindergarten. And then in seventh grade is the year he was supposed to go to seventh grade is when Mississippi mandated the Tdap. And by then I had continued to research and I had Palin. And she suffered a vaccine injury when she was 4 days old and had to be readmitted into the hospital. So no way was I letting Ben get another one. And I knew I wasn't going to be able to send her to school. So I brought him home in seventh grade. It was actually the first year that Ron Paul had his Ron Paul curriculum. It was super clunky, but we pushed through it because I was a big fan of Ron Paul, and I had taken Bennett when he was, I think, 12 to a campaign speech in Louisiana. That was such a great experience to go from being in school to kind of him self-leading. It taught us a lot. Um, and then I ended up doing sunlight with him the year after that. And he pretty much stuck to that throughout the rest of his schooling. Palin starts kindergarten, and I'm ready to go. I'm super gung ho and excited because I've done it for a little while, and kindergarten's fun. No, she was not ready. She was not ready. And I kept reminding myself part of the reason I'm doing this, it originally started as I didn't have a choice, but I immediately, very quickly learned that this is the way. And I was 100% into it. I feel like it was a blessing overall in the end. But yeah, she just wasn't ready. So we did a couple weeks of school, and I was like, I am not fighting this battle. We'll try again next year. And when we tried again next year, it was almost just as hard. But, I had a son who was reading on a 12th grade level in, I think, 5th grade. And Palin could give a rip. She didn't want to sit down and do a board book when she was 6. That's what I'm talking about, my kids being so different. And now I have my 16-year-old who has a reading habit that is cost prohibitive. Doesn't want to go to the library. She wants to own all of her books. And so, yeah, I mean, I've learned, it was taught to me that they will get it. You give them the tools to learn and make things available to them and just back off. That was the best thing I could have done for her. If I had sent her to school, I have no doubt that it would have been miserable and she would have hated learning. So I'm so grateful, that things worked out like they did because I did. I just had to relax and just trust that it would come. And it did. It did.
I think that's a really key point that you touched on, not just related to school, but anything as you're raising your kids. But a lot of times in your head, it might be the stereotypical answer, oh, they should be doing XYZ by now, or, whatever it is.
Yeah.
But really, every kid is unique, and they're going to learn it at different times,
Right.
whether it's potty training or walking or reading or, algebra, doesn't matter. When they're ready for it, they'll have that, motivation to do it themselves. And that's when it's really going to be the best.
So much easier. It's so
Yes,
much easier
for
without just
all
the
involved.
struggle.
Yeah, no, for sure. And you mentioned I think a few different curriculums through that chat there. It sounded like you stuck to one curriculum throughout, or how did
Well,
you
with
guys?
him, Sunlight, there was a lot of reading involved, and he was a reader. That worked really well for him. Palin, I can't even, I lost count how many curriculums we've done. The Good and the Beautiful, we did some Sunlight. That was not for us. And right now, it's more just kind of, I don't know that I call it unlearning, but it's what she's interested in. I find a way. We're doing Peterson Academy. That's Jordan Peterson. It's like college level, beautiful presentations. He adds new ones every month. And the value for the money is amazing. I watch some of them with her, some of the lectures. They are phenomenal.
Very nice.
Phenomenal.
Did you guys find that? I know in our house we kind of mix and match certain curriculums for certain subjects as well. Some that's one of the nice things about homeschool. You can be flexible in that
That's
sense,
right.
where you say, oh, for English or language arts, we really like this, or for math, we like this. Science, is that similar? I know,
Yes, absolutely. Yeah.
yeah, being able to go out.
It's a mishmash for sure.
Yeah, and one thing for people who don't homeschool yet, or maybe they're just starting, you know, like you said, you shift around all the time. Maybe you start one. Maybe somebody tells you, "Oh, this is the best things than slice of bread for math," but then you start doing it with your kids, and it doesn't work for you guys.
Right.
That happens all the time. That's happened to us. Where you start it, and you're like, not a good one
And not for
for
us.
our fit.
Just move
You know,
on.
yep, exactly. Move on. Go find another
Yep.
thing. And I'm sure what was kind of the daily structure like? And I'm sure that shifted as the ages went by, but maybe tell the audience how that kind of flowed through from different younger stages when they're maybe less independent, you're more
Yeah.
the teacher, to where they are now, especially your daughter still going through it, being more independent. Kind of
Yeah,
what's that look like?
younger. Well, Ben started in 7th grade and he was really independent to a large degree. So his dad was very much about you need to get up and get dressed. I'm not so much like that as long as it gets done. I don't care if you do it in your pajamas. But so he was much more independent. A lot of his work had to do with him doing his work and then we come together and discuss it. That kept kind of me involved, knowing what he was doing and gave him an opportunity to talk. I forgot that I did enroll him in Veritas Press online, a rhetoric course that was phenomenal. He's a gifted rhetorician. He was from the time he was a toddler when he talked me into that. I needed to let him know why he needed to do something. So when you find those gifts that they have, you can really, homeschool gives you an opportunity to really let them hone in on them. Palin, when she was really young, it was amazing. Homeschool, we never spent more than a couple hours, a few hours as she got a little older, knocked things out. We typically would take like Friday off. And then, if we had some kind of an appointment on a Tuesday or needed to run out of town for something, we'd do school Friday. So maybe 4 days a week was kind of average. And, as she's gotten older, she's much more independent now as well.
Yep. No, that is the flexibility is awesome, especially, Monday through Friday or even Saturdays and Sundays.
Yeah, yeah, if you need
If you
to.
need to, like you said, if it's only an hour or two,
Mhm.
doesn't take up a lot of time, in the morning and evening, afternoons, fit it into the schedule there, which is awesome. Did your son end up going to traditional college, or how did that transition work for him?
He did not.
Okay.
Bennett and I conspired against Chuck, against his dad, to do a gap year. He and I both knowing that college was not for him. It's not something he wanted to do. And he really spent a lot of time thinking about it, looking into it. He would have loved to have been an attorney. Um, Talked about constitutional attorney, really looked into it. And he was just like, I do not want to sacrifice the next however many years it is. And, you know, I just, as much as I'd like to do it, I don't think I'm willing to put in the time to get there. And I appreciated that. Chuck was very much, you go to university. So we just are like, let's talk him into a gap year. And before the gap year was over, he had an opportunity to see that. I'll back up a little bit. Bennett had his pilot's license before he had his driver's license. So he can fly. He's a pilot, just small planes. He hasn't pursued like his instrument rating and those kind of things because other work opportunities have come up. It's something that he wants to do at some point when he has the time. But when Chuck took Ben for like his, it was a flight with something to do with getting his pilot's license. He actually ran into two men that he had either graduated with or had gone to college with who were also pilots, and they had conversations about Bennett and what was he going to be doing. And both of those men who Chuck respects were both like, college, he doesn't need that. If he's going to fly, he doesn't need it. And that was originally what he was thinking. So just, things happened along the way that helped bring him to our way of thinking. I am not against university. If someone wants to go to a university and pursue something that you need a university degree to do, then that's fantastic. Palin and I have had lots of conversations about, do you know what you want to do? Because depending on what it is, I need to prepare you for college. You're going to be writing papers. That's not something we do a lot of because right now that's not something that she wants to pursue. So I'm very much, things have changed. I'm a huge proponent of Mike Rowe and dirty jobs, and there's so many things out there for these kids to do that doesn't require a university education. And sadly, I feel like our universities have suffered over the years and produce, kind of wash our students out from the way that they were raised. Can happen. I've seen it happen to families that I just never would have thought.
No, that's so true. And was your husband a pilot, or where did that
He
kind of?
wasn't. He actually trained to be one as an adult, and he decided that it just wasn't for him. He just didn't feel the plane right, so he wasn't comfortable with it. So he never finished. He did it with his younger brother, and his brother has his pilot's license. But Ben just grew up around it. It was something he was interested in, and he just took to it. He's a fantastic pilot. I've been in the planes with him.
Very nice, and it's something when people become passionate about, it's always something to be able to pursue and have in the back of his pocket in case he ever wants to take it further down
Right.
the line.
Yeah,
You can't have too many hobbies or
that's right.
qualifications.
Agreed.
Um, yep. Was there a particular time, we talked about technology and internet a little bit earlier, but as your kids were going through that homeschool side of things, when you kind of started introducing using screens or the internet curriculum type things more as they got older, within that age group?
We did everything that Bennett did when he started homeschool in seventh grade was based on the internet, the Ron Paul curriculum. It was like source material, so there was a lot of reading even on a screen. We'd print some things out. So, and just even before he even was homeschooling, we gave him access. Ben always used the computer to research stuff. There's not a day in that kid's life that has gone by that I've talked to him for more than 10 minutes that I don't ask, why do you know that? And it's just because he's constantly just taking in the most bizarre. He's just interested in everything. Just a constant learner. Uh, Palin, we did do a lot of reading eggs even when she was little. I don't know if you've heard of that. That really probably laid the foundation for her reading better and more successfully than anything else I tried, and I tried a lot.
And what
So
are the reading eggs? It's not something I'm familiar with. I'm sure maybe the audience isn't.
you're familiar with it?
Yeah, no, for the reading eggs, what is it?
Okay.
Maybe.
It's just like it was an app. I think it was an app on her iPad, and it introduces phonics and has different levels. And we actually ordered little readers from them, so we had all the readers just like you would have in a school phonics program, but it was based online.
Very nice. People can go research that and see what's out there for it. Was there a certain time through all this that you started introducing kind of the financial literacy side of things? That's something that's so often forgotten about in the traditional school side. But from a personal homeschool side, did you guys start weaving that in, or how did that come about?
Tuttle Twins.
Okay.
Tuttle Twins, yeah. I'm trying to remember. I feel like maybe one of the first books they came out with had to do with financial literacy. It feels like it's been forever ago. I feel like I did all of that more successful with Bennett than what I have with Palin. Probably because he was easier and more interested. Palin at 16, we just mostly just talk about things like that. She's past the age of Tuttle Twins, and I know that I forced her to sit down and listen to me read to her because she wasn't into reading. I don't know how much of that has stuck with her that she remembers. Um, but yeah, we're together all the time, and we do a lot of talking about all the things.
Very nice. The Tuttle Twins are awesome
Phenomenal.
people and curriculum, and
Yeah.
we had the honor of being able to be next to them in Vegas.
Yes.
Their booths there, and then our characters were in the last Bitcoin focused show that they had on. So co-sign the stuff that they're doing, whether it's related to Bitcoin or otherwise, being able to find the different subject matters that they're touching on. That's going to circle back around to the book. Maybe just tell the people kind of where the genesis came from to being able to want to write a book, first of all, for kids.
Okay. Writing a book for children is something I've always had on my little unspoken bucket list. I've started on a couple different concepts and they never really went anywhere. When Chuck passed away, he had always taken care of all the finances. I was happy to let him. But when he passed away, I was completely thrown for a loop. And I really had to dig in and make sure that I was doing the best I could with what I had. And I kept just Bitcoin, Bitcoin, because like I said, Bennett had laid that foundation in 2012 when he was 12 years old and continued to talk to us about it throughout, his entire teenage life. And so I feel like that it was the Holy Spirit that, stirred me about that because I spent a lot of time praying. And so I just set out to validate my instinct. And as I did, I'm consuming all the books on Audible, I'm watching all the podcasts, and I feel really, really convicted that Bitcoin is what is my answer. And that was the end of last year. And then I was blue on New Year's Eve, which doesn't make sense because my husband was always in bed before midnight anyway. But I just sat down at the kitchen table and it just came. It's not something I had thought about doing. I mean, I thought about writing a children's book, but Bitcoin children's book never even crossed my mind. But that night, it just flowed. I was like writing on a paper towel on the kitchen table. I'm like, why am I doing this? I got up and got my notebook and my laptop, and I looked up, and it was like 3:30 a.m. and I had more than the beginnings of a book. It was probably the bulk of it that I had done. Of course, I went back and worked on the metering of the rhymes and all that, but the meat of it was there. And I shared it with Joel Baumgar, who is a former representative for the state of Mississippi. He was very favorable to some legislation that my nonprofit worked on over the years. And now he is a Bitcoin evangelist on Facebook, where there's not enough Bitcoin discussions. I mean, it's on X. I feel like I'm in an echo chamber on X to some extent. Facebook, nobody knows. Nobody knows about it. They're not paying attention there. And so I had been paying attention to him as well while I was studying. I had talked to him because he's someone that I actually know and trust. And so I sent him what I had, and it was his reaction to it. I didn't expect him to be so excited and so positive towards it. It was just, about 10 spreads of just the manuscript, no illustrations, of course, or anything. And his reaction is probably the reason why I pursued finishing it. Now, if I knew back in January what I now know is involved in being an indie author and self-publishing a book, I don't know that I wouldn't have stopped right then. But it has been something that's been really fun to focus on. Going to Bitcoin Vegas, I'd never been to a Bitcoin convention, and bringing the art copies with me. There wasn't a time that I brought one out to share with someone where I didn't look up and have a crowd of people around me that were interested, because what you're doing is amazing. And the Tuttle Twins, and there's a few other, but there is room for more. I've never seen a bookshelf that just holds one book. And so I'm just so excited. And I've seen that. I don't know if you've seen that. Thank God for Bitcoin. Jordan Bush has a book coming out as well. So it was an accidental thing that it happened. I came out of nowhere, and I've had an absolute blast doing it, and I'm really, really excited about it.
It's also sometimes the best accidents are the best type of ways to roll into things. And like you said, being able to see that reaction in person, whether it's at Vegas or other ways, just having that firsthand experience of people smiling and laughing and holding the book for the first time.
Yeah, because I have friends here that some know a little about Bitcoin, most don't know anything, and they're all rallying behind me, but they're your friends. They're gonna do that. So it was nice to be in the atmosphere where you're around like legit Bitcoiners, and there's an interest and an excitement behind it.
It could also be scary too, since now you're around
scary.
strangers that they don't have to tell you it's good.
That's right.
But that gives even better validation on that
Yeah.
side of things. Maybe tell the people a little bit. You mentioned it's a rhyming book, which is kind of similar. I guess I would kind of describe it as Dr. Seuss-ish type rhyming.
Yes, and that's the best compliment ever.
There we go.
A lot of people say that. I really worked hard to find the illustrator that I did. Kenny Noley did a phenomenal job. It was exactly what I wanted. And I had to hunt down because you go to Barnes and Nobles, I don't see any illustrations that look like mine, and that's what I wanted, and I'm excited about that. And people do call it, I've said Seuss meets Sats.
There we go.
It's a Seuss meets Sats book, but I've got it right here, and I'll pop up the cover.
Yeah, you can both hold it up
there. Oh, look at that! And of course, this is just the art copy. The actual book will be 10 by 10 with a nice jacket on it, great for gift giving, because we want the Bitcoin uncle to give it to his niece and nephew whose parents aren't paying attention so they can read it and have a eureka moment. That's the goal.
Have you seen any of those eureka moments you mentioned a lot of your friends that have read it aren't necessarily Bitcoiners. Have you seen this book help them kind of learn, even if it's just like
that's the
asking a simple question?
Especially the ones that they're interested, like they ask me questions, and I feel like they kind of zone out when I start talking about it. But when they're reading a book that is a rhyming children's book with pictures, and it also has a kid-friendly glossary, which means adult-friendly glossary, yes, that has been the feedback. They're like, I think I actually kind of get what Bitcoin is now. So when I was writing it, especially as I kind of completed it, I really was of the mindset, this is amazing for kids and it's fun for kids, but my goal is to give adults a primer. I've read so many books to my kids. Like, I want to read a good book that I enjoy too. And that was what my goal was. And I think I accomplished it.
I think so. I can co-sign in that. So that's perfect. And have your kids enjoyed seeing it come to life?
They have. I actually kept it secret from my son. I wanted it to be more complete when he saw it. But Palin was there the entire time. I would apologize to her because I'd want to show her something and she'd be like, Mom, don't. This is really exciting. I'm really excited for you. So, she's here in a captive audience and doesn't have a choice, but she's been so supportive. And then when I finally did share it with Bennett and Lysandra, it was actually like a digital flip book that they could read through the whole thing. And then they've been amazing as well.
Awesome. No, sharing those moments with them
For sure.
is definitely special. And kind of as a mentor to your kids, what's one piece of advice that you hope they carry into adulthood? Whether it's about money, life, perseverance, doesn't matter. But is there any particular advice that you kind of really want to make sure that's instilled in them?
One thing that I pray for my kids is that they would be sensitive to the Holy Spirit's leading. And that looks like, if you're not a religious person, trust your instinct. I always want my kids to really listen to that inner voice and trust their instinct. It has led me. Anytime I listen to it, I'm always grateful I did. And when I don't, I typically regret it. That's probably the best advice I could give to my kids, and they hear it a lot.
Instill it in them over and over again. How about anything around making sure that they're able to stand up for what they believe in? You've touched on different topics here. Some can, people might push back on some people might not, just in life, that comes up. But for standing up for what they believe in any walk of life, kind of how have you gone about that with your children and teaching that to them?
I have led by example. I, as a teenager, young adult, was the most non-confrontational, go along to get along person on the planet. But when you become a mom and something affects your kid, the mama bear comes out in you. And, I can use vaccines as an example. I could give a rip what anyone else chooses, but we need to be able to make the choice for our own children. And I believe in freedom. I believe in informed consent. And so I founded a grassroots organization. It's the largest one in Mississippi, and we have changed laws here. And they got dragged to the Capitol every freaking year. They've all been in front of all the lawmakers, so they have lived it. And both of my kids, when I watch them deal with confrontation or come up against, when COVID was happening, they were just fine right on their own. They're very convicted about how they feel, and they do not hesitate to stand up for themselves, and they do it respectfully. I could not be more proud.
Very nice. And if you're talking to maybe some new parents out there's so many new Bitcoin parents that are popping up all the time. What's some advice that you would give them, just kind of going into their journey for the first time? Anything that you would really want to put in their ears?
Don't shelter your kids. Be bold in front of them. Give them opportunities to be bold. I think it's important that we teach our children that it's okay to say no thank you. You can be respectful even as a child and still stand up for what you know is right. It can be as small as, someone offering you something when you're little and it's the polite thing to take it, but it's not something you want to take. There's such a contrast in the way that I was raised versus the way that I've raised my children. And the way I've raised my children has empowered them versus, and it was just the way that it wasn't, my parents were just they did a great job. I love my parents. They were fantastic and they are fantastic. But things have changed, and I feel like their generation watched a lot of our freedom slip away little by little. And our generation is having to fight back for them. And I feel like my kids' generation's going to have to fight harder. They already are having to fight. And so if we can instill in them the confidence and the boldness to go after, what's right, and give them the tools to be able to do that, then do that as early and, as young as you can with them.
For all you new Bitcoin parents out there, take those pieces of advice to heart, and your kids will be set up nice, and hopefully it'll make parenting a little easier for you as well. So
it's not easy.
It's not easy. No, it's never easier.
Yeah.
It'll be fun and challenging and tiring and fast all at the same time.
It's fast.
Yes. Speaking as someone with a 24-year-old and a 16-year-old, I'm sure it's gone by in like you would never imagined.
Flash.
Before we jump into the final two questions, I just want to remind everybody you're welcome to use code BFFSHOW at Shamray.com for 10% off anything you want to grab over there from our bookstore, games, anything else. Go ahead and take a look and use that code to your heart's content. And so for our final two questions that we ask everybody, we're going to dive into those. And the first one actually, I think is fitting since you mentioned Bitcoin being time in a way and time related to it in your final note in your book on the back of the cover there. And so a common saying in the Bitcoin space is Bitcoin is time. Another belief is that time is the scarcest asset the world has ever created. So playing off of that, all of that, what is the biggest gift of time that learning about Bitcoin has provided your family?
The biggest gift of time that Bitcoin has provided my family is time. Bitcoin did not save me after Chuck's passing, but it definitely gave me the gift of time in that I was able to heal and have the time to invest in Palin. Without Bitcoin, I would have had to go out and get a job when I needed to be focusing on her. We've had a couple of really rough years. And yeah, Bitcoin is time. And it has given me and my little family so much, over the past year. It's allowed me to pay for every birthday bill, pay off vehicles, a large tax burden, all while being able to stay home and invest in my kids.
Most important thing. So that's beautiful to hear. And the final question of the day, if you had one Bitcoin to give each of your kids, at what age would you give them the keys and why?
This question, I knew you were going to ask it because I watched your show and I really struggle with this. I feel like the correct answer is to say, Bennett is 24 and super responsible, and here is your bit key, put your thumbprint in it. But if I'm truly honest, and I want to be honest, if I had one Bitcoin to give each of them, I would not do it right now. Even though Bennett is responsible, I want to see him grind it out and work. He is very capable. He is doing a fantastic job. They're super responsible, budgeting, have a wedding coming up. I feel like the struggle a little bit is such room for growth. And my fear would be that they come up against something hard and we've got this whole Bitcoin here. Let's use some of it. I feel like that I would wait. I don't know for how long, but I would just wait, maybe till he's 30, 35. And then he's done all the hard work. And I feel like there's a bigger chance then that Bitcoin would stay in self-custody and not be touched. And that's what I would want for them, because ultimately that would be a bigger gift, in my opinion.
That's a perfect answer. It'll be a mama's instinct to know when that the time would be potentially right. So
Caitlin went get hers for a long time.
Exactly. Okay, well, that's a wrap. Thanks to everybody for watching or listening, and for continuing to watch the show. Hope everybody enjoyed it. Please go follow Lindey. Find her on Facebook, as you mentioned. Go join that crowd there. Go to the website to sign up to be notified when the book does come out. I'll be sure to put that in the show notes. But any last words or places you want to send people, or a release date, whatever you want to let the people know about?
I meet with my book designer Wednesday, and I'm hopeful that we will have it available for pre-order by mid-July. LindeyMagee.com, and you can drop your email address and I'll be sending out an email as soon as it's available for pre-order.
Perfect. Well, everybody needs to go and do that. I can, like we said, we have a copy of it here. It's beautiful. It's funny. It's informative for kids, or adults. When the grandparents are coming to read to the kids or whoever it may be. So go ahead, sign up and get notified for when the next great children's Bitcoin book is coming out. Well, thanks for joining, and thanks to everybody for listening. We'll talk to you guys next time. Bye.
Thanks so much.
Hi, thanks for joining. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and leave a good review. And buy your kids some stuff at Shamray.com today. Bye. 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 Bye.